Welcome to Public Forum, a community outreach program produced at North Idaho College on the shores of Lake Coeur d'Alene. Featuring guests from around the globe addressing a wide variety of subjects, Public Forum serves to educate and enlighten. Please join host and moderator, political scientist Tony Stewart, in welcoming today's guest.
I welcome you back to part 2 of our 2-week series on the topic Hands of Humanity. And for you who were with us last week, I hope you enjoyed as much as we did this remarkable project. It's an art project that involves human rights and a connection between the role of arts, and I could even add humanities is certainly the same kind of thing, and integrating it with the story of human rights. And we have 2 guests who were really responsible for that with the help of lots of other people. And I'm very pleased to welcome back to the program Lori Olson Horswell, who is on the faculty of the English Department of North Idaho College. And next to her is Michael Horswell, who is with the art department as a faculty member. And it's just a wonderful thing they've done. And when they finished it, we actually have a 28-minute production of the story. And I have chosen at the end of this 2-week series that next week we'll bring you that entire production of 28 minutes so you get the entire story from beginning to end. And we think that will make a very good conclusion to this remarkable story. Welcome back to the program.
Thank you, Tony.
Pleased to have you here. And as always, I'm very pleased to have Erna Reinhardt, who is our panelist, and she is the Director of Public Relations at North Idaho College, and she will commence today's questioning.
Welcome back for week 2, both of you. Michael, for those of us for the viewers that weren't with us last week, before we get too far down the road this week, share with us just a quick overview of what this project was exactly, where it's installed, and the different groups of people that were involved in it.
Sure. Last semester, about a year ago, I connected 2 sections of my 3-dimensional design class with a group of students from Art on the Edge, an after-school arts program here in Coeur d'Alene. And together we did a service learning project where we created a sculpture for the Molstead Library that involves the Universal Declaration of Human Rights as the sort of the fundamental structure for the piece. Each student was teamed up with a child, and together we cast their hands in hydrostone, and together they built a sculpture that articulates one of the different articles of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights.
Share with us a little bit about the situations that those kids are in. Those kids come from a different environment.
They do. I believe it was started as an after-school program for at-risk kids, children whose families are in transition. But it also includes now students that are homeschooled and any area students that want to have an after-school arts opportunity. So it serves the whole region in terms of giving kids just an opportunity to come in and do some art after school. So it's a wonderful program.
Excellent. And we'll talk in more detail in a little bit.
Sure.
Lori, share with us, though, one of the key components of this particular project was what we call in higher ed service learning. Mm-hmm. And that is something that hasn't been around forever. So for those viewers that may not be familiar with that term, share with us what that is.
Service learning is a balance between college and community, and how that happens in the classroom is that an instructor who's designing a service learning project would create a learning experience that's directly tied to what that course is about. College students then choose whether or not they participate, and they engage in the activity, learning more about the course subject as a result. So these kinds of classes happen across the curriculum. We have people like Kathy Hostetter in communications, or Pat Lippert in ethics, even biology, psychology. A variety of faculty members have engaged people in service learning. And so with this particular project, combining the arts with a community project like Art on the Edge is a real wonderful learning experience for students. And it's not just that the college students get something out of it. The community has all these wonderful, energetic college students coming in to help them with their goals that are so important. And that's what service learning is about. It's been around here at NIC for about 10 years. Nationally, it really got going in the 1980s, and they say that around 940 community colleges and universities across the United States are engaged in service learning, with about 33% of college students participating.
Absolutely.
So,
I just want to make sure we get that plug in.
Yeah.
It's more than just volunteering.
Yes.
There's an academic component to it that a lot of times involves writing and kind of internalizing their experiences,
absolutely.
which is great.
Between the shows we were talking, and there were a lot of interesting experiences, Lori, putting it together. And could you share a couple of stories with us of some really very humanistic stories about as something was being formed, one of the pieces, and what happened in the exchange between the college students, and I understand the young students were about between ages 6 and 13, or maybe also some of you and Allie Vogt and others that were involved. Or not Allie, not Vogt, but Shoot.
Allie Shoot.
Because Allie Vogt's on our art department too. Tell us a couple of those stories.
Yeah, it was fun for me because while Michael was working with all these children who were casting their hands and was deeply engaged in that process, I got to wander around and interact with everyone and collect their stories. So I talked with one parent, for instance, who was not represented on the film. I wished I had been able to capture that moment, who was walking around trying to get down all of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights articles, writing it by hand. And when I handed her a little booklet, she said, "Oh, something like this exists. This is wonderful." She felt so thankful that she had that. Or as a couple of pairs were working, I noticed one little girl off all by herself, and she was drawing about her lost wolf. And I realized she hadn't been partnered up because she'd come in late. That was the second session, so I was able to grab her and hook her up with another pair. Or the child who drew a really meaningful depiction of discrimination. She wrote about a child at school who had braces, and they were calling him Brace Face. And she said, "Is that discrimination?" This is Haley Bisher, and she was talking to her partner, Lori Chrisman. And Lori said, "Yeah, that's what discrimination is all about." And so you got those wonderful little moments, colorful moments of children having these ahas where they understood human rights, or parents engaging in that kind of interaction, or making sure that these kids are mentored as they're there in the room with so many folks surrounding them.
In other words,
wonderful.
The powerful story there is that we've heard a lot, which we should, about discrimination, and we have protected classes based on race, color, gender, and all. But what was coming out of here was that human rights goes further than what is most often advertised or talked about. And the kid was asking, is this also discrimination? So it's expanding the definition and helping them hopefully behave in a way that shows dignity rather than hurtful to other people.
In a really simple way, in ordinary moments in their lives, that they're seeing connections between this fairly abstract document and what it really means to them. I saw that happening in so many of their drawings and in so many of the conversations that were occurring there.
Now I'm going to turn it on you. Instead of talking about the children and the college students, we spent the last show and this one on that. And you're both very wonderful people, but let's move to you now and talk about how has this changed you? How's this affected you? We've been talking much more about that. Certainly, you can't do something like this without it enriching you also. Michael, we'll start with you.
That's a really good question, because when you're so involved in this, so much of it's about getting the project done. When you're coordinating this many people, the process is really involved. I think the way that it has affected me has made me realize even more deeply as an artist how integrated we all are, how much we need one another. I think there's a sense sometimes that artists create in their own private little environment and they bring it out and people look at it. But that's just not the case. I mean, you need to create with other people in a community. And this has really been a great example for me of how that happens. And I think the work that's a result of those relationships are far more powerful than they are when they're left just for one individual artist to contend with. Because I think the reason that an artist goes down a path to begin with to create is because of the relationship to their own experience of living, and so much of that involves other people, that when you have an opportunity to work with other people, and children especially, is that it really creates a dynamic experience for the artist and for anyone involved in that. So that for me, it's connected me more. It's made me feel more connected.
And Lori, how about you?
Yes, it also has made me feel connected, re-enlivened my commitment to service learning, but also has made me want to make sure that other people see this project, this sculpture, to understand how much it means. And so we can see a work of art on the wall and enjoy it, but when we see the whole process that was involved in putting that together and understand its deep personal meaning to so many people involved, that's what I have learned is a commitment to the arts.
And as a person myself in political science who has great interest in documents, constitutions, and principles, I was impressed by some conversation we had earlier that you know a lot more about the Universal Human Rights Charter than you do. More, the 30 articles are more in your mind, they're more meaningful, aren't they?
Absolutely.
And so you can articulate this to others.
Absolutely. I mean, that's at the core of this whole project, that it is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. We even just chose that as a name because that's what it's all about. It teaches people more about what it takes to create a community. And whether it's children and college students engaged in a project like this, making art or talking about it or looking at art, it's all about community and human rights.
And I think, too, also that it's been really engaging to discuss this document and get this in front of people. And we get it in front of the children at a young age. I think it's really important. They realize, you know what, there's actually a document out there that says I can do this stuff. And I think that's where the groundwork is for being able to make changes, to develop even further notions of human rights and equality. And you know, if we can do that, then hey, that's what art is about. And it's a powerful document, and we should be expressing this.
It'll go on with other generations because they'll teach their children. And so what's neat about these kind of things, and teaching in general, is that it goes on for generations. Erna Reinhardt.
Michael, on the finished video, which our viewers are going to get a chance to see next week, one of your students, one of the college students, I think said it's important for artists to get out of their own little bubble. Can you share with us what that meant for you and maybe give us some examples of how that occurred with this project?
You bet. That's a great question because I think a lot of the students that I engage with, college students, come to class and I give them an assignment and they set to work on it and they bring it and then they show it and I grade it and they go home. And what this really created for them was a problem that they had to solve that related even beyond just making the work, but about how they connect then with another human being and how do you connect with somebody on this abstract level. And so it forced them to get out of their own private area of creating something that they wanted to create and really find out a way to collaborate with another person and even teach this other person to create something that still had integrity in terms of its aesthetic appeal. And that was a powerful time. There were some students at the beginning that it was difficult for them to do that, but once they did, it really unlocked doors for them that they didn't know existed. And it's very important that you engage with other people when you create work and dealing with these kind of abstracted ideas. I don't know how you do it otherwise, frankly.
Can you share with us maybe something that one of our students shared with you about how this project impacted them, how it changed their outlook, maybe?
Oh, let's see. Yeah, I had a couple of students in my night class that, for one thing, never thought about doing any kind of a service learning project or just being out beyond the school and doing something. And like Lori intimated a minute ago, it felt like, I think it connected them more deeply to their sense of community and their sense of purpose in what they're doing here, why they're going to school, while they're learning these art ideas, how you could implement those art ideas to benefit a wider range of people than just yourself for whatever reasons. And so I've had several that continued service learning and that have a continuing interest in just engaging with the community beyond their own private studios. So that has been very meaningful to me.
That's powerful.
Yeah.
Lori, I want to hopefully have you share with us some of the things that happened at the reception. We went through the project started with the students sketching and the casting of the hands and the actual building of the sculpture and then the actual installation, and then we had the college hosted a reception for the students that were involved, for your students, for the parents, and for the community. We didn't talk about that last week, but I can imagine, I wasn't there, but I can imagine that there were some great little moments out of that that event. Can you share that with the audience?
Yeah, it was nice. We'd taken digital photographs all the way through the process, and so we set up an LCD projector and had a slideshow running. So as the children came in to the room, the lobby of the library that was just full of people, they see their faces up there on this giant screen that's next to the sculpture, and you could see them pointing at themselves and laughing. And the college students were there and were, I think, a little nervous about how the public was going to be receiving their work. We had all kinds of participants, and people from the Human Rights Education Institute were there, people from the Citizens Council for the Arts, from CAA, all these other arts organizations in town that we invited, as well as from the campus community. So it was a wonderful bringing together of Art on the Edge children and parents and grandparents and college students and people on campus and the arts and the human rights. And so we had a little flyer that explained the articles, and you could just see everybody looking up, looking down, and engaging in conversation about what all of this meant in terms of human rights. And so it was a wonderful celebration event.
And I can imagine there must have been some really proud youngsters. Can you share any of those experiences, Michael?
Oh yeah, there's there are a couple of poignant moments too. They were several the kids would come when they came in and saw their piece up on the wall because they were with their parents or grandparents and they've been talking about this. And when they walked in and saw this big event going on, and they'd go up and they'd see it, and they were pointing and talking about what they were doing. You could just see real engagement in what was occurring there. And I saw that several times. How students would point it out directly, the one that they did, and then talk to the other kids about which ones their friends did, etc. But there was a poignant moment too that there was a couple of students that were unable to attend because they were housed at St. Vincent de Paul Transitional Housing, and their family was asked to leave there, so they weren't able to attend the opening. That was very sad and very poignant because of just the realization that these people's lives, in some cases, are in transition, and these kids needed. I mean, it was a great opportunity for them to have some sense of foundation and an opportunity to be mentored by other people as well. So that was one side of it. Was an eye opener for me personally. So
I want to make a note that has to do with this service learning, and something that Lori is close to her heart because she coordinated for a while. This was actually created by the Education Commission of the States, and the late Governor Sanford, North Carolina, was very involved, and a professor at Harvard. For those who don't know, the Education Commission of the States is made up of 371 commissioners, including the 50 governors. And I was privileged to serve on that commission under Governor Phil Batt, and I know a lot about their commitment to this. So what my suggestion is that we should send this to the Education Commission of the States. That's a beautiful example of how service learning works at their headquarters in Denver, and so I shall do that so that you have this recognition of the success of the project. When groups do that kind of thing, they need to know about the success. But other than that, I want to move into the issue of art and politics. I took students to Europe, and I had a very sobering experience with them. We went into the Soviet Union, which was a dictatorship. And I think it was good to do that because it taught the students about how awful dictatorships are, and they appreciate democracy more. Under Stalin, for example, in the Soviet Union, one of the first things that was censored and restricted were the arts. And so this is a beautiful example in a democracy where art can flourish. So would you speak to that? I'll start with Michael. That what's very dangerous about a dictatorship, the arts and the humanities that Lori is very involved in, are very threatening to dictatorship, and they try to stifle the creativity. Here you have great creativity with your project, which in dictatorship would probably not have been allowed.
No, not at all. I mean, I think it's a prime example of that. I mean, it's under a dictatorial system, of course, you want to control thought and creative ideas, and the best way to do that is make sure that those ideas and those thoughts aren't espoused publicly. And so I think one of the things that we see in this kind of a piece of art is the fact that not only is it being structured upon the basis of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, but it also expresses the individual creative potential to articulate an idea how you choose to articulate that. Excuse me. And I think that's something that we have to cherish. That's why these rights are so important. It's because we depend on these to make sense of our world. I mean, artists represent our world to us, and I think the way we do that allows for us to see each other in a different light. And I think it's extremely important that people, especially children, have the opportunity to articulate their thoughts, and hopefully that can kind of continue through these sort of public art projects. Not that all of those ideas don't happen under public art auspices, but I think that that's an opportunity for people to engage more publicly with those ideas. So very fortunate that we can do that, yeah.
That reminds me of a question for Lori, that is teaching in the field of English and literature. You certainly have had experiences as a college student and as a faculty member about the role of the humanities. Doing this project or being involved in it, does this in any way affect how you go back to the classroom to teach young people about why the humanities are so essential and also they can be so alive in a democratic society? In other words, there's a message for college students.
Absolutely. And in our humanities classes, we have students read Viktor Frankl's important book, Man's Search for Meaning, which is about his experience surviving Auschwitz. So the Holocaust becomes a real thematic subject in those classes that allow us to discuss human rights at a deep level. And in my English classes as well, before they even engage in service learning, we talk about the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, because as students go out into the community, they see that there are these problems where people don't actually have all those rights that they would if they were living in a conscious and creative community.
It just came to me, someone in political science and someone who myself loves democracy and seeing up close that dictatorship or totalitarian system, this just rings very loud that this is a great way to oppose censorship and to promote the freedom of the arts and humanities. Erna Reinhardt.
Lori, I want to ask you another question about service learning. You have done some research that involved this project, and I think you also have some wonderful data to maybe share with us about the benefits of service learning. Could you, we talked about that a little bit last week, but could you expand on that?
When students are engaged in meaningful, needed community service that's linked to course content, they learn at a much deeper level. They remain in the class. They're more likely to stay in classes, and they report that they are engaged in their community in a different way. They will be more likely to choose occupations that will make a difference in other people's lives, and they say that they're more interested in local community issues. So there has been a lot of research done nationally through surveys of students who participated in these kinds of projects, and it does come back resoundingly that if it is a good project and students are engaged, it makes a difference in their lives. Not to mention then that it makes a difference in the community's life. It brings us all together, and that's what art does as well. At the foundation of this project and service learning is John Dewey, who was an educational philosopher, and he believed that by engaging students in experiential learning, they would become better citizens because they would be participating in this community. He also wrote a book called Art as Experience, in which he says that art is a way to bring people together as they participate in creating rather than destroying. They help to create a community, and that whole process of pulling people together through an experience like this helps to create more active, involved citizens, which is what service learning is about too, and human rights.
We're getting close to being out of time, but there may be people in our viewing audience. We have so many wonderful viewers in many places that if they want to talk more to you about this, they can contact you here at North Iowa College. Is that correct?
Sure.
Shall we give them some contact number or how they could get in touch with you?
Sure. They could contact me at my office phone number, which is 208-762 769-3202. That's my office.
Let's do that again. It's area code 208
208-769-3202.
3202.
Yeah.
That is your direct line.
That's my direct line in my office. Yeah.
Okay. For those who just were grabbing a pencil, it's 208-769-3202. I just have a feeling that there are people out there that they're in the arts, humanities, or whatever, or have some other kind of project they'd like to do. And
Sure.
certainly you would be very willing to share your wealth of experience with them. With that, we're getting close to bringing the program to conclusion. We're going to stop a little bit early in a few minutes, or a few seconds actually. What I'm going to do, ladies and gentlemen, is as we go off the air, I'm going to show another piece from this 28-minute production they've done. And what you're going to see is the 30 articles from the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. And each of those articles will come up and show how we use the art. They did, not I, how they used their art to emphasize all those articles. And if you've never seen all those particular articles, it's a wonderful time to see it, but to see it in the context of art. And we'll be with you again next week. Hope you've enjoyed our program. And now at this time, we will show you the 30 articles. Thank you.
Recorded on the campus of North Idaho College, Public Forum is the longest-running in-house college production on PBS. Each episode is pre-recorded live and is an educational outreach from North Idaho College. Please join us at this same time next week for another edition of Public Forum on this public television station.